Okay, then KRS-One, how are you?
I am great. I am feeling great, doing great, being great.
That's always good to hear, and it's very exciting for me to have you here in my show, and I would like you to know and I would like to thank you for being here.
Man, the honor is mine. I thank you, man. I mean, for what you're doing for hip hop, out there is incredible, and I thank you.
Well, I do my best, to maintain it, to preserve hip hop in the way that you define it.
Indeed.
Have you ever been on Israeli media?
I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get there. The only problem is I don't fly, or at least I haven't flown for like 15 years. I like flying, but I just don't like commercial airlines and buses and trains and things like that. I usually travel privately. So if there was a way for me to get to Israel privately, I would definitely take the trip. But I may have to put my policy aside and just fly in, because I also want to go to Australia. There's parts of Africa I want to go to as well. Japan is calling. And obviously Israel, I would rock that place crazy, and it would be a great day.
I'm sure you will. I mean, I've seen you perform when I was in New York. I saw you in the Bronx, in Cortona Park in 2009. You did a free show there. I was there, and when you performed with Supernatural in last year in the Netherlands, in Arnhem, I also went there to see you. And it
wow. Okay. Wow. You was part of some of the more raw shows. Those were hardcore spots, man. We got it in.
Yeah, I remember those shows. When you're in the Netherlands, when you were with Supernatural, he took my ticket from the crowd to freestyle about it.
Yeah, man. That was hot. That was good. Well, thanks for coming.
Sure. I traveled all the way from Amsterdam just to go there.
That was hot. That was hot. Wow, you actually was there.
Yes, and the show in the Bronx was also amazing. I remember after the show, you were signing people's CDs and posters, and I tried to get one too. I had my copy of Criminal Minded, but I couldn't get to you then.
Yeah, I was giving out copies of the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace poster, I think it was there, and people was mobbing us for it. It was just all over us for it, and CDs and every other thing, pictures and stuff like that. Love is always good, man. Anytime you could receive love, it's I don't understand these artists that hide from their fans or refuse a picture or try to always walk around with security. I don't understand that. I mean, I understand it if you fear for your life, or you're worth so much money. But with hip hop, with MCing, DJing, breaking, graffiti writing, beatboxing, this is a people's art. This is just a people's art. And it's like, just talking to you now. I mean, listen, talking to you now, I'm talking to someone that actually been to several of my concerts, where 20 years ago, this would have been unheard of, that hip-hop would reach this far, that two men from different backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, and regional backgrounds would actually be able to share an experience, a cultural experience, by the way, in yet another region, and, other regions in that sense. It's fascinating, man, that the experience, hip-hop as an experience is truly fascinating. when you actually live the culture.
Yes, and it's when I went to New York like several times in the last few years, and let's say out of the four last Rock the Bell shows, I've been to three, all in New York. So when I'm there, I always try to catch as much hip hop as I can. I just buy like some Time Out magazine, just see who's playing where, and I just go there, to catch as much as I can.
You are hip-hop.
Well, coming from you, that's the best compliment that I can get.
It's the truth, man. It's the truth.
I appreciate it. So let's talk about a bit about your career and some moments in it, some things for our listeners that might not know who KRS-One is. So I would really like to introduce you to the Israeli public.
Sure.
So I would like to talk first about Boogie Down Productions and of course Scott LaRock, rest in peace. I know he was working as a social worker. Is that how you two met?
Yes. I left home when I was about. Well, let me go back a little further. When I was born August 20th, 1965. In Brooklyn. And in Brooklyn, when I was born, times were hard. This is the 60s, the turbulent 60s of the United States. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, fighting for civil rights, that thing. I'm born in the center, in the middle of that conflict, or should I say, growth. In American history. I'm born there, so immediately I'm immersed in an environment that is reaching for something more than what it had in front of it. It wanted more than what it was experiencing. And so from age 1 to like age 5, it was no big deal, to see the police, just shooting at people or being corrupt in the streets or to see gangs fighting each other. It was no big deal in that time. Even as we look back on it, our school, our education that we was getting was just straight ridiculous, just straight lies to the education. And so with all of that, we were trying to seek a better life, trying to seek a better way. We knew there was a better way than what we were experiencing, and I was just born into that experience. So around 1972, I'm 7 years old, and I find myself at 1600 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx, which was adjacent to, it was a park that separated my building from the building Cool DJ Herc was playing his music in. He was at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx, and I lived at 1600 Sedgwick Avenue, which was the very next building over. And so I'm 7 years old hearing the jams, we used to call them jams, out in the park in the Bronx. And there was this guy, Cool DJ Herc, who used to play music in the parks. There were other DJs, but this guy, Cool DJ Herc, used to focus on the breaks of records, the break beats of records. Those that don't know what a break is, normally a song would play with a singer over the music be going, the singer be singing, and then at some point in the song, the singer would stop singing and the music would just play, and usually play only the drum and the bass. And this was dance music. Mostly this was done to dance music. And so Cool Herc would only play the instrumental break part of the record, or focus just on that, and keep playing it back and forth in a thing he called the merry-go-round. And so when we went to Cool Herc's jams in 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, in the park and in the community center, we was waiting for Cool Herc to play the breaks of records. and then we would do a dance called the go-off. And that dance, the go-off, would only be done to Kool Herc's breaks. And this is where you get the idea of break dancing, or B-boys, break boy, or break girl, B-boys, B-girls came up out of that. Now, during 1973, around this time, hip-hop was not started yet. It wasn't called hip-hop. It was called the jam. It was just a jam. But there was B-boys, there was breakers, there was graph writers, there was MCs and DJs, all of that. So 1974, Africa Bambaataa creates Zulu Nation after coming back from Africa and being made a Zulu chief. He quits the gangs in New York and forms Zulu Nation in 1974. Hip-hop then gets its principles of being a culture about peace, love, unity, and safely having fun. Africa Bambaataa would go on and create such groups like the Rock Steady Crew and even his own group, the Soul Sonic Force, and the Jazzy Five, and DJs like Red Alert and Chuck Chillout and Jazzy J, and graffiti writers like the Tats Crew, TAT, and so on. Excuse me. All of that came out of Zulu Nation and formed what we call hip-hop today. The term hip-hop comes out of a gentleman by the name, there's actually a debate where Africa Bambaataa credits DJ Lovebug Starsky with first using the term hip-hop in his rhymes. Some give the credit to DJ Hollywood as the first one to use the term hip-hop to describe what he was doing. And lastly, others give the credit to Keith Cowboy from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five for first coming up with the term hip-hop. So between these three MCs or DJs, the term hip-hop comes into the English lexicon, at least the ghetto English lexicon, sometime around 1977, 76. Right around this time, Grandmaster Flash invents, I should say, cutting, mixing, and scratching the vinyl records or recorded materials with the turntable. The idea of cutting, mixing, and scratching, a DJ named Flash came out with this technique, and this completed hip-hop around 1977. In 79, the Sugar Hill Gang comes out, a record called Rapper's Delight, and introduces the term hip-hop to the world. At this time now, everybody is now looking at rap music and calling it hip-hop because of the Sugar Hill Gang's explosive record. Everybody started interchanging this concept of calling hip-hop rap. But hip-hop is not rap. Hip-hop is breaking, MCing, graffiti writing, DJing, beatboxing. It's a way you speak. It's a way you dress. It's how you feel. It's a behavior. So, and of course, rap music comes out of that behavior. It's one expression of hip-hop's core four elements: breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing. Rap music comes out of the element of MCing. In that sense. So having said that, I now am about 12, 13 years old, and around 78, 79, somewhere around there. And I start to get visions, off and on, sometime in my sleep. I have a dream about something. Sometimes I'm just walking, and just a flash of the future comes into my head. And what it was I had this feeling to be an MC and to be a philosopher. Really, to be a philosopher was my driving, like my motivation when I was like 13, 14. I was really fascinated with philosophy, with mysticism, with the Kabbalah, with all of that when I was like 13. And I was fascinated with reality and what is real and what is an illusion. And, you know, I got into Einstein and general relativity theories and special relativity and started looking at, and all of this I'm looking at about 13 to say 16. Somewhere in these years, I'm looking at these concepts. Now imagine the kids on my block are still worried about going to the beach and eating a Frank, and that's the end of their situation. For me, I was trying to figure out why the pyramids sat where they sat. Was there some code that we needed to know? Was there something? And my mother helped me with this. She used to take me to bookstores. She introduced me to the library, all of that. But what was so funny was that my mother was a very intelligent woman, 4.0 grade average. She was Phi Beta Kappa in school. She went to college. In her college, she went. I forgot where she went, but her schooling and her intelligence was extremely high at the time, and she encouraged me to be smart, to educate yourself, to know something, and to pursue what your goal actually is. But it didn't work out to her benefit, because after telling me all of that, I said, well, now, Mother, I'm leaving this house. She fought me, cursed me out, even tried to punch me out. But I said, you know what? I'm out of here. And I left. I picked up my bag and I left. And I said, Mom, when I return, I will be the #1 rapper on the earth, and I'll be a philosopher. This is what I'm going to do with my life. And I left home at about 16, somewhere around 16 or 17. I finally left, and I slept in the street. I slept in the street of New York, first Brooklyn, Prospect Park, Wingate Park. These parks there in Brooklyn, Flatbush section of Brooklyn, the Flatbush section of Brooklyn. I slept in the library as well, studied at the library. I dropped out of school, obviously, started reading the books that I wanted to read, started going to free seminars, started talking to people. And I became, I put myself, I should say, in the position that I needed to be in, at least as a philosopher. I was fluent now with Aristotle, or what is called Aristotelian scholasticism. I'm actually, I was familiar with that. Now, I knew Rene Descartes. I knew Francis Bacon. I'm dabbling into the religions now, world religions, ancient religions, primitive religions, and this is what my day is. So I'm going through this for about a year as a homeless person, sleeping in the park, wake up, go to the library, trying to find something to eat. I never begged at all, ever. Never had to prostitute myself, never had to do any of that. I did menial jobs. I mopped floors, I washed windows, I did a lot of moving jobs, lifting, a lot of move you out your house to another house, a few construction jobs, a few painting jobs, all these one-off jobs. You get paid by the day. And that's how I lived my life. And I studied philosophy in the street and perfected my rhymes. I'd rhyme. I'd go to the jams. The jams was still happening right around this time. It was like 82, the jams were still happening, and we would go to the jams, and I would practice, not there, I wasn't, anybody, so I couldn't get on the mic, but I would see what was going on, and would practice my rhymes when I got back. So now we come around to your question, where somewhere in my homeless day, like I was like in my path, I wound up at 166th Street and Boston Road in the Bronx. And there I was in a shelter. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it was an armory. It was an armory that had army equipment in it: trucks, tanks, bits of engines, army stuff, everything except guns. But when we first got there, they had they was just clearing out the armory, so there was still trucks there. There was even it wasn't a tank, but it was like a military kind of vehicle. It looked like a war vehicle in that, and it was fascinating to see. So I'm there with 700 other men, homeless. Most of them are drunks and drug addicts. There's a community of working people, which is really only about 10% of the shelter, homeless shelter. About 10% are the working people that say every week, I'm only going to be here one more week. I'm only going to be here one more week. And one more week go by, and they're still there. And there was those people, and then there was us. There was a young crowd that was all aspiring to be stars. We're going to make it. We're going to be somebody. Who are you? Oh, I'm an actor. Who are you? Oh, I sing. Who are you? I MC. I'm a rapper. Oh, who are you? And by this time now as well, let me just backtrack. Rap is big now. Rap is huge now. I'm in the shelter. Rap is huge. But when I first said to my mother that I was going to be a rapper, which was around 1977, rap was nowhere. It was only on my block. That's it. It was only practiced right there. And I said, that's what I'm going to do with my life. This right here, this thing called the Jam. I want to be that. That's what I'm going to do. But it was nowhere. 2 years later, 1979, Sugar Hill Gang would come out with the first rap record, first big one. I mean, scholars know that it was the Fatback Band with King Tim III. That was actually the first rap record that was released on a mainstream level. Fatback Band was huge back then, and they released the first rap record called King Tim III. But then, about 3 months later, Rapper's Delight came out, and so Rapper's Delight is given the actual credit for being the first rap record. And it really is, because they was rapping straight up and was doing it the way MCs do it. Even the Fatback Band, as great as the record was, they still weren't doing it the way we did it in the street. They was doing it the way radio disc jockeys did it on the radio, the way they did it, where they was just like sort of making a parody of MCing. They weren't the real MC. They were trying to be, and so this accepted imitation became a rhyme style unto itself in that sense. And that's what the Fatback Band was more doing than Rapper's Delight. Now, speed up. So I'm in the shelter, and rap is huge now. Now it's big. People are getting money. Run DMC is out. LL Cool J, Houdini, Fat Boys, everybody is out, and its tours are starting, and the dreams that we had in the 70s are now becoming real in the 80s. And this is fascinating to me because I'm studying philosophy and specifically metaphysics. And so I'm looking at this like, this is incredible. I remember when this thing started as nothing, absolutely nothing. It was us standing around trying to find something to do with our time. And this one came with breaking, that one came with DJ, and it could have been other things because, like, the roller skating was huge when we were coming up. Roller skating arenas, but it never really caught on as a hip-hop element. Same thing with double dutch. Double dutch was huge. Jump rope being able to jump rope and then do the double dutch jump rope techniques. Those were huge, but never really caught on as an element of hip hop. But they were just as much practice as breaking, emceeing, graffiti writing, and DJing. There were other arts that hip hop was involved in. But as we, evolved, these other things kind of fell away, and breaking, emceeing, graffiti, or DJing is what actually stayed. So I'm in the shelter, and in walks this social worker, the new social worker. One guy quit. He said, I can't take it, these savages in this building. I'm going to save myself now and get out. He quit. Couldn't take the pressure of the shelter, 700 people, and only 4 social workers for 700 guys. So in walks the new social worker. His name was Scott Sterling. He walks in, suit, tie, and a briefcase. And he walks in, and now, so miraculously enough, each social worker had a section. There was a blue section, red section, a green section, and an orange section. I was in the blue section. And this guy, Scott Sterling, happened to be the social worker for the blue section. So I got to go see him. So I go see him to get tokens to, there was a scheme going that the homeless men in the shelter, or at least my group, we would go to the social workers and get tokens, get the tokens that they give you to go to get a job. We would take the tokens, put our money together, and go buy weed, go buy ganja. And that was our daily routine. So they was up on it. So Scott Sterling knew what I was going to do with the money. So we up there. So I said, okay, so I'm here for my tokens. He said, okay, where's your job? And I said, well, I need the tokens to go get the job. I'm looking for a job. He says, no, you're not going to get the tokens until you show me you have a job. I said, how can I show you I have a job if I'm telling you I'm going to look for one and I need the tokens to go get it? If I don't get the tokens, I can't go get the job. So now we got into this philosophical deal right at the top. Right at the top. Here we go. And this became an argument where Scott was telling me, this is the problem with you young black males today. You think everything's supposed to be given to you. You don't want to work for nothing. You have no respect for your legacy. You're just sitting on your ass complaining about the white man this and the white man that. And he tore me out. Then I responded. But you're that house Negro that Malcolm X talked about. That when the master says, oh, the house is on fire, you say, our house is on fire, master. We went at it back and forth. You're just part of the establishment. He'd come back, oh, you're just lazy. And we go back. So we had this big argument. At the end of the day, he won because he was a social worker. He called security and said, get this bum out of here. And so the security came, got me, threw me out. Okay. So I'm like, who does this dude think he is? But deep down in my heart, I knew that he knew that I was really trying to get the tokens to go and get high with it. So that's our relationship starts there. And after I'm thrown out, one of the security guards come over to me, and he says, "Yo, man, that was a something." He said, like, that was an ill conversation, man. That was a wild conversation, And I was saying to him, like, these cats don't know hip hop. These cats don't have no idea what that is. So the guy I was talking to was a famous graffiti writer named Funk Master. Not Funk Master Flex, the DJ in New York. The original Funk Master graffiti writer from the graffiti crew called the Rascals. Graffiti writers all over the world will know what I'm talking about. The president of this group was called Pre-Sweet, one of the the most famous graffiti writers in New York, pretty sweet, from the Rascals. And his right-hand man was a guy named Funkmaster from the Rascals. And these dudes was kings in graffiti, kings. They done bombed everything in New York, name on everything. And this dude was a security guard at the shelter. And he revealed his black book to me. He said, yo, look at this. And when he showed me the black book, I said, oh, you're Funk Master. He said, yep. He said, yo, I hear everything you say, and why don't you come over and meet this dude named Said G, who lives in the projects. So I went over to the projects, out the shelter, went to the projects, met this guy named Said G. And Said G immediately took me in, and I was his MC, and he was the producer. And he said he's working on a group called Ultramagnetic MCs. And it's going to be him and his little dude, Keith. Keith was real young back then, but his little dude, Keith, Cool Keith, and Mo Love was the DJ, and Trevor, and Said G. So Said G, and I was going to be part of Ultramagnetic. I was going to be part of Ultramagnetic MCs and do that. So I'm with Said G, and so I start rhyming. And what they notice about my rhymes is that I'm rhyming about nuclear war, metaphysics, vegetarianism. This is like 85. This is like 85 now. I'm rhyming about stuff that dudes ain't even thinking about, but this is my style. This is back when you had to have a style in order to be a rapper. Everybody was something. Run DMC was the kings of rock. LL was the prince of rap. You know, there was Queen of this, and you know, so and so. And so you had to be something in order to come out. Originality was the blood of hip hop. All this idea of you sounding like somebody else now, that's corny. Back then, it was originality. So I said, I'm going to be the teacher in hip hop. That's what I am. That's what I studied. That's what my being is. And so when I started rhyming, every time I rhyme, I'm trying to educate you with this rhyme. So that became my style. People liked that style. I started doing it in the park. I started doing it in the shelter. Then I got to Said G. I started rhyming for him. They liked it. It was like, wow, that was like the style was dope. And it was one other guy named Tila Rock. Tila Rock used to do a similar style, but he wasn't really teaching you through rhyme, but his words, he used to say rhymes like commentating, illustrating, description giving, adjective expert, like that, you know, and it was a
like Cannabis does?
Sort of like what Cannabis does today, yes, indeed. And Keith Murray. And, I'd stay there. I was going to go back to OC. Dare Times Limited, Hard Rocks, too. There was just that style where you're not really... Oh, and Ultramagnetic. That's the reason I'm very Ultramagnetic are the kings of that. Where you're rhyming in a technical style, like you're using technical metaphors to say something that you're not actually saying. Like what's coming out your mouth is to make the listener see something else. So if Tila Rock says commentating, illustrating, right there, he's talking and illustrating what he's talking, commentating, illustrating, description given, adjective expert. So description, who are you? The adjective expert, the rhymer, the one putting out, you know, the language in that sense. And the use of the word adjectives is just, you know, that on and on kind of thing. That style, that type of rhyme is where I carved myself out of, that style. And And as I began to do that style, you'll notice on a record called Advance by the Celebrity Three, Scott LaRock and the Celebrity Three, one of our first our first record, Scott LaRock and the Celebrity Three. There is a record called Advance on Zakia Records, ZAKIA Records. And there you will see the style, where I talk about nuclear war and starvation and political corruption and all of that type of stuff in this record in 1985. So you can see how off we was. And if any scholar just compares what I said, what that record was compared to what was actually playing in 1985, you would see how weird we sounded back then. So I'm going to Said G's house. And Said G, we were there every day practicing. One day, the social worker walks into Said G's house. Scott Sterling, but he's not dressed like Scott Sterling. He got an Adidas jumpsuit on, gold on his neck, a gold wristwatch, and some fly sneakers on. Got on some brand new sneakers, and he walks in. Yo, Said G, what's up? And he sees me. So we both looked at each other like, what are you doing here? So he looked at me like, you just a bum. What you doing here? I'm looking at him like, this is hip hop. You are not that. And so we looked at each other. Say G like, yo, y'all know each other? So he's like, yeah, this dude from the shelter. And it's fine. And he's like this. So it wasn't hostile. It was just uncomfortable. And so I just went on with what I was doing. Scott LaRock was there, or he didn't reveal himself as Scott LaRock yet. He was still Scott Sterling. And as I started rhyming, there's just a bunch of people in the house at that moment. It's about 12 people in the house, and it made it really compact, like everybody was on top of everybody. And Said G threw a beat on. I started rhyming. Every line was like, ooh, oh, ooh, ooh. I had the whole bedroom rocking, because that's what we recorded. We recorded in Said G's bedroom, in his room. Cash was sitting on his bed. We was all over his room, so I started rhyming, giving him, my latest rhyme. And actually, my latest rhyme was Criminal Minded, the actual lyrics to it. But I was doing the lyrics to other music. It was like you throwing a break, and I would just be like, Criminal Minded, you've been blinded. Looking for a style like mine, you can't find it. Hey, other audience, or if you do it slow, I'd be like, Criminal Minded, you've been blind. Or you do it to reggae, I might do Criminal Minded, want to be blinded. So I was doing it in all kind of different ways. And he was loving the flow between the reggae, the intelligent, the teacher. I'm spitting like Tila Rock would, but I'm not. It's that kind of thing. So Scott was impressed. Scott LaRock was impressed. And he said, yo, after I finished, he was like, yo, I didn't know. Oh, man, yo, that was really good. Wow. And then he said, you still need them tokens? And we laughed. And we laughed it off. And I was like, yo, man, everything I said in the office, I was out of line. I broke down and said, yo, that's not me. That's not who I am. It was just, I was caught up and da-da-da. He was like, yo, don't sweat it. It's all good. Yo, what could we do here? And then we started talking. And it was like, he said, yo, come down to this place that I DJ at called Broadway RT, Broadway Repertory Theater on 145th Street and Broadway in Harlem. And I said, okay. And I went there, and it opened my eyes. The minute it was the first time I was ever in a club ever. And I walk in, the music's blasting. I'm waiting to see who's performing this. And the music's going. I walk past Dougie Fresh, goes downstairs. I'm like, oh, that's Dougie Fresh. He goes by. I go up, this other dude named Mantronics was there. He had the biggest record out called Fresh is the Word back then. And he walked past me. I was like, oh, that's Mantronics. And then I went into the hall. People are dancing, dressed in the Adidas, Nikes, everything, just like hip-hop to the core. And everyone's dancing, having a good time, drinking. I'm looking like, where this music coming from? I look at the DJ booth, and there's the social worker in the DJ booth, blazing these people, cutting, scratching, throwing on one song, ripping it off, yelling at people. Scott LaRock was the man, straight up. And then I figured it out. This dude's a DJ. And he was DJ, he did his thing. So obviously we met again in the week, and now it was a whole different thing now. Now it's a whole different thing. He was like, yo, man, let's start a group. And I named the group. I said, okay, let's name this group let's name it the Boogie Down Crew from the Bronx, representing the Bronx, because in New York, everybody it was badass Brooklyn, money making Manhattan, Strong Island, the Boogie Down Bronx, like that. So we was like, we gonna be the Boogie Down Crew. So I was like, wait a minute, let's say Boogie Down Productions. So we give it a little, like some sort of corporateness, some sort of professionalism to our name. So it was like Boogie Down Productions. And we went down $45 and incorporated at City Hall, came back. And mind you, I'm still in the shelter, and he's still a social worker. And we went into business together on this thing called Boogie Down Productions. And he's the DJ, I'm the MC, and we going after the whole world. Now, keep this in mind. All the while this is going on, my childhood dream is being fulfilled. I'm seeing for my own self that what I saw of myself at 12 and 13 was true, because I'm looking at myself and I'm marveling at this. I'm like, how did I get here I was in the shelter with nothing, no way of becoming a recording artist, much less a star, like a hit record. No, this is no way. I was in the shelter broke with nothing. And in walks Scott Sterling. I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't go to a record company. I didn't go to the clubs. I didn't go to a talent search. I didn't go to an attorney. I didn't go to an agent. I sat and meditated and visualized on what I knew I was supposed to be. And it came to me. This was my first lesson in metaphysics, leaving the realm of reading about metaphysics and actually living it. Leaving the realm of, reading about spiritual life and then actually living it. And the first lesson was, be still and know that I am God. That was lesson number one. Be still and just know that I am God, and everything is taken care of. Everything is already done. I already told you in your heart this is what it was going to be. So be still. Stop running around. Be still and know that I am God. And I took that lesson in because it made me think. I imagine when I was in the club, when Scott LaRock invited me to the club, and I was in the club, I'm sitting there. I got a Bacardi and Coke soda. Bacardi, rum, and Coke soda. And I'm sitting there nursing this little drink. And I'm thinking, how did I get here? How did I get here? This dude is breaking these people, cutting, mixing. This is my man. He's the social worker for the shelter too, by the way, on a whole different level. So there's another level of power that I'm experiencing just having him as my DJ. There's other levels of power. He's the one who gives you the tokens. He's the one who gives you the late passes. The late passes was a huge thing in the shelter. If you could get a late pass, meaning you could be out after 8 o'clock. And come in whenever you want. That was gold in the shelter. If you could get a late pass, you was golden. And I had a stack of them. I had a stack of them because I knew Scott LaRock. And of course, I would never approach him for tokens ever again because it was on a different level now. It wasn't, I'm coming to you to try to game you now for these tokens, these subway tokens to get on the public transportation. We were somebody else now. So Boogie Down Productions is born, KRS-One, Scott LaRock, and KRS-One is born because I realized that a mind is a terrible thing to waste. United Negro College Fund. But that right there, I realized that the mind, how powerful it really is in the manipulation of reality itself. And so I started on this quest now to realize what is hip-hop and why is hip-hop and who are we in hip-hop. And so the first thing we did was we made a record called Elementary, and that we were coming out as the teacher. Elementary, which appears on the Criminal Minded album.
Of course.
And we came out, and the way it appears on the Criminal Minded album is the way it was in 1985. It's like the end of 85. We went in, recorded this song, and it was taking that song and this other song called Advance, which I just said came out on Zakia Records, but it was that one, and some lyrics, the lyrics to Criminal Minded over like funky drummer, like Scott LaRock would cut up James Brown's funky drummer, and I would just rhyme Criminal Minded over that. In that sense, and that was our demo. That was what we was running around with, and everybody said this music is whack. Your subject matter is garbage. You guys are not gonna make it. I mean, language like that. Like they was like, this is crazy, man. Get this out of here. The teacher. Who's gonna want that? Who's really gonna pay for that? And it was like we was getting dissed left and right. And one day, Scott was reading. We had just came from RCA. We had got rejected from RCA back then. It was a record company called RCA. And we got rejected from them. And we was walking home. We had no money. So we had to walk from some of the upper Broadway, like 70s, up in the 80s, 70s, 80s of Broadway, and walk all the way to the Bronx, which was like easy 10 miles, easy. And we had to walk it. So we walking home now, broke, hungry, thirsty, and just got rejected. Again, like this is like the 10th one. And so Scott's looking through a entertainment newspaper, and he finds a small ad for a company called Rock Candy Records and Film Works. And they say they're looking for actors, actresses, rappers, DJs, all of that. And so we answered the ad. And Scott called up the guy on a payphone. And the guy said, well, come on in the office now. And so they came, so we walked to the office. And went to this guy's office in the Bronx. His office was in the Bronx, and we were all going to the Bronx. So we walked to his office in the Bronx, and there's a guy named Jack Allen, another guy named Bill Camara, and another guy named Ray Wilson. The three of them sat us down, and they were being financed by a Hasidic Jew in the United States, the Jews with the wear the black and,
they're religious. They're Orthodox.
That's right, straight devout. They were financed by a Hasidic Jew, a devout Jew. And I found that weird. I don't know why, but I just found that weird. There's these three black men and this one Jew, and It was just weird. And so this is what their operation was. And they were doing films, and they was trying to do some recording. And so I linked up with them, and me and Scott, we had a meeting. And the meeting was that they wanted us to rap. They had already wrote some rhymes, or someone had wrote some rhymes, and they wanted us to say these rhymes on, for them, and they would, take the record and make the money from it. So we said, okay, we'll rap your rap. We'll do your rap if you give us a label deal. We want to come through your distribution and distribute our records as our own label. We're called Boogie Down Productions. So they said, okay, no problem. Do this for us, and we'll do that, and that'll be the deal for you. Somehow paperwork was drawn up that didn't say all that. Mm-hmm. Somehow the paperwork got drawn up, and I did this record. Me and Scott did the record called Crack Attack. It was and this is around, again, 85. We're coming at the beginning of 86, and the crack cocaine epidemic is now hitting New York. It's now reaching New York, and it's crazy. It's just absolute madness in the streets. So these guys, Rock Candy Records, these guys wanted to put a record out warning people against using crack, the drug crack cocaine, and, stay away from that business. So I found that positive. I said, that's great. So let's do this. No problem. And then after that, we get our own label. So I did the record, Crack Attack, which was their lyrics. I just was like a session rapper. Came in, said what they wanted me to say, and that was it. And I didn't even get any money for it. They put the record out. Record blew up. Boom, on the streets. A little small regional hit record. Chuck Chill Out played it. Red Alert played it. Crack Attack, Crack Attack, Crack Attack. I said a dime is a waste of time. And we put that out. And so now we went to start our own label. And our label was called B-Boy Records. That we are going to take hip-hop back to Cool Herc 1973, Africa Bambaataa 74, Grandmaster Flash 76, Cold Crush Brothers 78. We're going to do it just like that, B-Boy Records. And what now occurred was Scott, in between this record, Crack Attack, being out, and us making our B-Boy Records label, Scott went to Mr. Magic and asked if he could get down with the Juice Crew. At the time, the Juice Crew was the biggest rap group out. It was the biggest conglomerate of MCs. Big Daddy K, Cool G Rap and Polo, Roxanne Shante, Biz Markie, Master Ace. Marley Marl was the DJ, and Mr. Magic was the biggest radio personality of the 80s, hands down. Mr. Magic was the biggest, I would say radio personality, but for hip-hop, he was the biggest rap radio personality ever for hip-hop in the 80s. And Scott went to this group. They was all united as one group called the Juice Crew. And the Juice Crew just had a battle with another group called UTFO. UTFO had put a song out called Roxanne, Roxanne.
Yeah, and then the real Roxanne, right?
And then there was a million Roxannes that came out. But Roxanne Shante was the first one that came out and battled UTFO. Roxanne Shante was part of the Juice Crew. The Juice Crew was ferocious for battling. LL Cool J was believed to have stole his style, his Kango and Pumas, that look, from a guy named MC Shan. And MC Shan challenged LL Cool J, called him a beat biter. And LL Cool J, it was like tension in hip-hop because that was supposed to be the next battle. MC Shan versus LL Cool J, who's going to be lyrical supremacist. Now, while that's going on, Scott LaRock is going to Marley Marl and Mr. Magic and was asking them, yo, can we be down with y'all? We want to get down with the Juice crew. So they was brushing them off. And like, yeah, all right, we'll see. I don't know. Call me next week. That kind of thing. And so we kept asking and asking. So finally, we knew that Mr. Magic was going to have a studio session at this place called Power Play Studios. And we went there, laid down our demo for Mr. Magic to hear it. So first we went there in Mr. Magic's session. He was doing his studio session, and he threw us out the room. Said, come on, man, I'm doing my session. I'll deal with this later. Threw us out the room. We was like, oh, shit, we just got this. Then we left our tape there to give to him, and next day we heard through an engineer that he said it was garbage and flung the tape in the garbage. Mm-hmm. That was the end of it. And so we was like, what? Garbage? And mind you, Scott had been asking to be down with Juice Crew and all that. So I went and wrote this record called The Bridge Is Over. I wrote that record first.
Before South Bronx?
Before the South Bronx. I wrote The Bridge Is Over first as a reggae record, some old Brooklyn Montine. And I just wrote that, and I said, okay, because if these dudes want to really get it in, if we whack, we're going to see them in the club, and this is what it's going to be. So I wrote this record called The Bridge Is Over, just so I can have that in case these dudes try to diss us in the club now that they just brushed us off and said we was whack as MCs and DJs. So I wrote The Bridge Is Over, but I kept it to myself. It was just a precaution, just in case. And so when Scott came, so when this happened, when Mr. Magic had did that to us, said, nah, we you know, your music is whack. I wrote The Bridge Is Over, and then, like about a week later, I wrote a record called The South Bronx. And the South Bronx was the one that Scott liked better. And so he put the beat together. The track that you hear was Said G and Scott LaRock. We went back to Said G's house. It was like, yo, we gonna get these dudes. What's up? And we put on this beat that goes boom, boom. Hey, bro, I got that good Chiba Chiba. Just like that. DJs will know what that is. And we took the front of it and looped that, chopped it, and put the James Brown horns on it, and started chanting, South Bronx, the South Bronx, South Bronx, the South Bronx. We start chanting them, and if you listen to the record, you'll see that I'm battling with knowledge. This was my style. Whenever I got in the battle, it was, you so stupid, let me show you how ignorant you are. That was my style to come off in battle. And so while I'm battling Shan, I'm like, well, let me show you what it really is. Way back in the days when hip-hop began, when Coke LaRock. So I'm teaching while battling.
And this was a response to MC Shan's The Bridge, right?
Right, yes. Let me not jump over that. That's right. MC Shan had put a record out called The Bridge. And this record was huge. This record was very big, huge hit record. Probably his biggest hit was called The Bridge. If you listen to the lyrics, he never said that hip-hop started in Queens. He never said that. In fact, the record actually is a positive record about reaching for your goals, about having a dream and fulfilling your dreams. That's what the record is really about. And how he came up out of the projects, and if he could do it, you could do it too. That's what the lyrics to the record is actually about. But because he was MC Shan, and he was a battle MC himself, coming out of a battle crew called the Juice Crew, there's a rule in hip-hop that says if you're going to claim to be the best, if someone challenges you you got to accept that challenge. Somebody with respect. If somebody with respect, another fellow best, challenges you, somebody else who's the best, you got to come with something fly right there and do it. Now, MC Shan said, I'm the best MC. LL Cool J bid his style, or so he claimed. LL Cool J bid his style, so he challenged LL to a battle to see who's really the best and should wear the style. Look at the logic of this, too, by the way. And so I, hearing this battle, intercepted the battle. MC Shan put out a record called Queensbridge. While dissing LL, he still put out his commercial record. The record was Queensbridge. So in the record, I take out the line that says...
you want to hear the story.
Yeah, you love to hear the story again and again, how it all got started way back when. The monument is right in your face. Sit and listen for a while to the name of the place.
The bridge.
Now, I took that line and accused him of claiming that hip-hop started in Queensbridge. Now, mind you, this is not what he said, but that line was used against him in MC battle. It had nothing to do with the record. It had to do with MCs battling for lyrical supremacy in New York. That's all it was. So I intercepted the battle between him and LL, which is why on South Bronx, the record goes, instead of trying to take out LL, you need to take your homeboys off the crack. And that's why that says that there, because everybody knew he was trying to diss LL. In that sense. So I intercepted the battle and said, no, battle me from the Bronx. I got something for you. Because we already got dissed by Magic. Marley was not feeling Scott LaRock at all about being part of the Juice crew and all of that. So we was like, you know what? We already on top of y'all. We already looking the chart like funny. So, so when I did the record South Bronx, Scott loved the record. We went in the studio, recorded it, and then Scott still took the record back to Marley Marl. And he said, Marley, listen to this. This is the hit. Put us down with Boogie Down. Put us down with the Juice crew. And he still fronted. They said, he said something to the effect like, this is just a one hit. Or he didn't say this. He alluded to the fact that this is like a one hit. You guys are going to put out one hit and be over. So go ahead and put your record out. I don't care. I ain't got nothing to do with y'all. Marley was mad, like that. Go ahead. I ain't got nothing to do with that. He heard the record and said, nah, that's whack. Whatever, that kind of attitude. So Scott went back. Now, mind you, this same week, we getting dissed from RCA, dissed from Mr. Magic, dissed by Marley Marl, just getting dissed and rejected everywhere we go. Scott's reading this paper. We go to B-Boy Records, and now we got this record in the midst of all of this, so we go back to B-Boy Records now with our first record for B-Boy Records. We go back to Rock Candy Records with our first record for B-Boy Records, which was the South Bronx. And on the flip side, I had a record called The P Is Free. And it was a beatbox record with a new upcoming beatbox dude called D-Nice. And that was our first single, 1986, it comes out. And the battle begins. I dropped South Bronx answering MC Shan's record, Queensbridge. And everybody jumps on it. They love the record South Bronx and Queensbridge. Red Alert used to play both of them back to back. Most DJs, if you play Queensbridge, you know South Bronx is coming on. After that, for many years, these records were played simultaneously. Oh, I'm sorry, not simultaneously. Played back to back. And so MC Shan, he puts out Queensbridge. I put out South Bronx. About 2 weeks later, MC Shan responds like a real MC. He responds with South Bronx Kill That Noise. Record was huge. In fact, Biggie did the beat over KC and the Sunshine Band beat. That beat goes dum 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 dunk, 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 dunk. That this beat, KC and the Sunshine Band, I don't have the title, but Biggie did it over. I'm trying to remember what his lyric is too at the same time. The first guy that did it, that used this break, was MC Shan answering KRS, and it was huge. Record was big. South used to come on, South Bronx, kill that noise. South Bronx, kill that noise. And then they commenced to dissing us on the record. Everybody loved the diss. Everybody was laughing at us. Everything. But then I reached in my pocket and pulled out the first record that I wrote, called The Bridge Is Over. Went in the studio by myself, laid down the beat, played the piano. It was me, Said G, and Greg Nice. Greg Nice from
Nice and Smooth.
Nice and Smooth. Me, him, and Said G was in the studio doing The Bridge Is Over. And I did the beat. Said G did all the skips, and this kind of thing. I don't know what Craig did. I don't know what Nice did, but he did something. But he was there too, and I did it all. The whole record was done in 45 minutes. Whole song. We didn't have no more money. I only had like time for like 2 hours. I think it was the studio time was like $30 an hour, and I had like $60 or something just for the studio. And I had 2 hours, so we went in, boom, 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 laid it down. I voiced the record one take, one time. That was it. Voiced it, made it into a reel to reel back then. Had the reel to reels going. Made it into that and made some cassettes. And then I took it to Scott. I said, yo, Scott, this is our answer right here. He heard it, fell out. After he picked his brain up off the floor, we was like, okay, this is what we doing. And so we went to Red Alert, and it was so quick because it was like 2 weeks it took MC Shan to return with South Bronx Kill That Noise. The Bridge Is Over was out the next week. Like, you heard his Kill That Noise or that 1 week, like that Saturday, Friday, Saturday, that whole weekend, MC Shan was winning the battle. Everybody was playing his record in the clubs, on the radio, everywhere. They was playing his record, Kill That Noise. So I came the same week, the following week, The Bridge Is Over came out on Kiss FM radio. Red Alert played it. And the city went wild. Whole city, New York, went wild. That was it. Battle was over. MC Shan never responded again. The one who responded was Roxanne Shante. She responded with a record called Have a Nice Day after The Bridge Is Over, which I found ironic. That the end would be, so have a nice day. Roxanne Shante did that diss to us. And that was sort of, and I never answered her because I did think she got dissed without, in The Bridge Is Over, I just gathered the whole crew. I just said, I just went down the line dissing every MC they had at the time, but not every. I left Biz out of it. I left Kane out of it. I left Coolsy Rap out of it. I only hit the dudes I was battling, but I hit the group that surrounded them. And, MC Shan was surrounded by Marley Marl and Fly Ty and Mr. Magic and all of these type of people. So I'm breaking down the crew around him in this battle right here. I just turned the flame up real quick in that sense. And then, so that happened. So Shantae responds with Have a Nice Day. And now we're on. But everybody is saying, oh, you just a battle group. You're not a real group. And this was the real criticism against us. You're not a real group. You just came out with an answer record, and everybody coming out with answer records was not considered real groups like Run DMC and LL Cool J, who were putting albums out and doing tours. Nope. You know what I'm saying? No, nobody was hiring us like that for tours. This was a regional battle, and you won the battle. That's it. It don't go no further than that. So everybody was like, okay, you know, y'all did your thing. It was cool. That was cute. Now let us get back to Run DMC and what real hip hop is.
And then you drop
And
Criminal
so-
Minded.
And then that's when that ego. I was like, oh no. We're not going anywhere. Check this out. And that's when I really got a chance to introduce the teacher. And what people didn't see was that I yelled the teacher out. I represent myself as the teacher on Criminal Minded, more on Criminal Minded than any other album I ever did in my entire career. On Criminal Minded, every line, every other word, I'm saying I'm the teacher or a scholar or, you know, this kind of thing. And you look at Criminal Minded, we came with the cover of Criminal Minded is me and Scott LaRock back to back, guns toted in the air with guns on the desk. And what people don't realize, we thought we were being Black Panthers. We thought we were being, that was the revolutionary look of the day. That's what the 70s revolutionary was. That's what, like for instance, Rakim, when you look at the Paid in Full cover, you think that's how drug dealers dressed or so on. And they did. But the way Rakim dressed was how the 5%ers dressed. Back then, and this was a spiritual organization. This is how the 5%ers dress. So with us, we if you look at it in context, we was trying to be Black Panthers. We was looking at, you know, we the new version of 60s and 70s revolutionaries. And so we was toting guns and coming off the way the Panthers come off, but in a modernized way. And our music also was depicting that. I was talking about being, you know, I'm not a gangster, you know, like I'm saying this in the rhyme, but it didn't matter. None of that mattered.
They took you as a gangster group?
When that record came out, it was over for hip-hop. Actually, there was a few records. It wasn't just Criminal Minded. It was Criminal Minded. It was also PSK had also come out out of Philadelphia. PSK out of Philadelphia had come out as well with some hardcore, but he only had one single in that sense. In terms of hip-hop reggae, Shinehead really gets the respect and the credit for being really the father of combining hip-hop and reggae. Run DMC did it with Yellow Man and themselves as well, and the Fat Boys did it too, but these were more jokes, like parodies of it, not no seriousness. Shinehead is the one who is seriously attempting to create a new sound by combining hip-hop and reggae. But I mention all of that because this is what you get on the Criminal Minded album. And the stories that I'm telling, for me, they were reality stories because I grew up in the streets, literally. And so I'm just there naively, and underline the word naively. Okay, I'm just saying what I see in the street, and I'm just saying what I think we could do to overcome it. And I'm giving the attitude on my record of the average dude that's going to hear my record, and I'm representing them. And I'm not trying to be mainstream or nothing. I'm just trying to represent the group that I know exists and nobody's talking about them. And that was the average street dude. You know, back then, to be a rapper, you had to put on a costume. And it was Boogie Down Productions that took all of that away. You had to, before us, you had to have a costume. You had to, and only wear that costume when it was time to rap. We were the first group to actually go to Dapper Dan, which was a tailor, a famous tailor in New York. They used to do the drug dealers' suits and the ball players and the actors and the rappers and all of us. used to get our clothes made by this guy named Dapper Dan. And rappers weren't going to Dapper Dan. Only street dudes was going to Dapper Dan. And me, and Eric B. and Rakim, people like Dana Dane, Slick Rick, we knew about Dapper Dan and would go and get our clothes custom made. Hip hop ain't never seen that before. They had saw Run DMC with the leather blazer, which was from another time. Used to get that leather blazer from a place called Jew Man, and it was a Jewish man and his wife. And the store was called Jew Man, and this dude had everything in this store that was hip hop. The first, I would say, Jew Man was the first store to focus on hip hop fashion, the first one. And everybody from all over New York would go uptown to Jew Man, and you would get your Lees, you would get your Izod shirts, you get your BVDs, you get your sneakers, and the point was you could always bargain with this dude. You could always bargain. He never let you leave his store without you laying your money down. And everybody loved him for that because it was a poor neighborhood he was in. So, you know, if the sneakers was $80 and you came with $70, Jew Man would let you get it. And people loved that shit. They loved it. And he was huge in the Bronx. Huge. I mean, he was huge in New York. It was the only place you could go. And I mention that because the style that Run DMC used to wear, the leather blazer with the leather pants, with the Adidas, with no laces in them, with the hat, that was all Jew Man. That was all sold out of that. And more Puerto Ricans used to wear those type of clothes than African Americans or whites in the United States. You know, so I just want to put that little history on it real quick. You know the difference in fashion. Run DMC, even LL Cool J, all of that was from Jew Men. That was from another era in hip-hop fashion history. When we came out, it was Dapper Dan. Jew Man had closed down and went out of business. So Dapper Dan was the new thing, and it was tailor-made. So we had stepped up now to tailor-made clothes. And so when Boogie Down Productions, Eric B. and Rakim, Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick, we all going to Dapper Dan and getting our stuff tailor-made. So this is what you see on the album covers, these specialized jackets, specialized suits to wear like this. Still a costume, but this is what the average dude was wearing during that time. It wasn't a costume to the people in the street. It was everyday fashion, especially in New York. So we get to the point now where Criminal Minded is out. It explodes. Everybody's bugging. This album's going down as a classic. This is a new group, Boogie Down Productions, with a scholar MC and a social worker DJ. This is something new to deal with. And so we realize we're getting ripped off by this Rock Candy Records and Filmworks. These men, these four men, begin to rip us off. They don't want to give us no money. They don't want to pay us our royalties. They don't want to do nothing. Money is coming in like a faucet with no, you know, just on, you know. Yeah. Money is just coming, okay? And it's coming, and it's coming, and we are not in the regular distribution system. The way we sold Criminal Minded and South Bronx and The Bridges Over was through UPS, United Parcel Post. We used the mail system, and the mail system had a thing back then called cash on delivery. So you send your stuff out through the mail, and the mail guy would pick up your money for you. So this was an ingenious system where we was using UPS and mail, the cash on delivery, COD. So when they deliver the package, you pay for it right there. And the mail place, the UPS, was delivering us checks from all over the country. Others were getting mailed to us from parts of the world, other parts of the world, you know, and we was getting checks from all over the country. So I was like, yo, I'm still homeless now, okay? Criminal Minded is out. I'm still sleeping on the train, okay? Now, mind you, all through South Bronx comes out, record's huge. I'm sleeping in the park still. I'm still on the train, riding back and forth. Bridges Over come out, I'm still in the street, still making ends meet. By now, Scott LaRocca's getting $300 shows. We getting little $300 shows here and there. So Scott take $150, I take $150, and we both give D Nice $25, and he get $50. And that's how we did it. And that wasn't enough to get an apartment. That was just enough for me to eat and get to the next day. I couldn't be in the shelter anymore because I was now KRS-One, and it was almost embarrassing because my record would be playing, like I'd be on the train, people playing my record, blasting it, and my head is low. I got to keep my head down like this, and because no one knew who it was. No one knew. No one saw our face, nothing. And so I had to keep my head down, like, wow, you know, he's playing, and I'm watching the reaction. I'm looking at how people are dancing to it, and it's like I'm a ghost in the room. I can't say nothing, can't do nothing, because I'm broke. I look broke. My clothes were tore up, hair undone. I'm stinking. I'm homeless, but I got these two big records out, and I just dropped this record called Criminal Minded, and I'm homeless in the street, still battling people, still going to the clubs, still doing that, but I'm every night I leave the club, I'm going to sleep on the train, or I find a church. Like some nights you would go to a church. Like it's not the shelter, it's like a small church. You could run up in there, and they'll give you one night to sleep, and then you up and you out for the next day. So you could do that. I did that, you know, this kind of thing. Sometimes I could stay at a friend's house, somebody who knew I was KRS. And mind you, every time we did a show, people saw our face. So it was like, it was becoming increasingly difficult for me to continue being homeless and have these records out. And so this guy named ICU, who was in the shelter with me. His name was Delroy Hutchinson, but we called him ICU. He was in the shelter with me. His mother gave him an apartment in Millbrook Projects, and that's where. Really, let me say this. Wait a minute. Criminal Minded was not out. Criminal Minded was not out. We was recording Criminal Minded. Criminal Minded was not out. I had the South Bronx, Bridges Over, and we were recording Criminal Minded. Just a correction there. Recording Criminal Minded. And it was during that time when ICU's mother had given him her apartment because she was leaving the projects and she bought a house somewhere. So she gave her son, who she knew was bugging, wilding out in the street, she gave him an apartment in Millbrook Projects. ICU took the apartment and then said to me, come on, man, come with me to this apartment, come with me to this place. And at first I was like, nah, but then I said, you're bugging, let me go do that. And I went, and that's what gave me some stability, but we were still homeless. Me and him was still, even though we had a house, you know, we had an apartment, we didn't buy no furniture, we had no clothes, we had, you know, nothing. We were sleeping on the floor, like we was just, you know, it was a place, it wasn't the shelter, but it was a warm place that we was able to sleep at. And it was ours. It was his, actually. And we were sharing it right there. He didn't want to be there by himself. He had a problem with that in the dark by himself. I used to tease him about that because he was like, this guy's a straight gangster, like straight up, okay? And he's like, I'm scared of the dark. Like, don't leave me in the dark. Want to, you know, keep a light on or something. So he begged me to come and be with him. I'm sorry, at this place, you know, and he knew I was an MC too. And actually, matter of fact, he was one of my biggest supporters. headquarters. He was the one who knew. Every time I say, yo, we going to be the biggest rap group ever, everybody would laugh, say, yo, you arrogant, you cocky. Don't you think you got to get a manager first? And I say, yo, there's a thing called metaphysics, the causes of reality, first causes. Do you know how to cause your reality? They say, metaphysics? What are you talking about? You a Freemason? Are you a this? And I'm like, come on, man. Why don't y'all pick up a book? And this is what I was going through during 85, 86, 87. ICU was like, yo, tell me more about that metaphysics. Yo, tell me more about that. I see you nice with the lyrics, man. Yo, you know, and me and him, he was in the shelter with me, so we became friends in the shelter. His mom's got an apartment, so I went with him to the apartment. That's how I got out the shelter. At the apartment, I met this chick named Miss Melody through Scott LaRock, who met this other chick named Quality. Yvette was her name, and this woman, Yvette, appears on the Advance record, the record that we did for Zakia Records called Scott LaRock and the Celebrity 3. The Celebrity 3 was Jerry Levi 167, KRS-One, and MC Quality, which was this girl named Yvette. And Scott was trying to talk to her, and she had her cousin with her named Miss Melody, who was trying to talk to me. And that all then became me wound up marrying Melody, Yvette becoming part of the group of that time. And of course, I'm going back, because this is like 86-ish now, 85, I'm sorry. This is like 85 when I met Miss Melody, or her name was Ramona. Met Yvette. Of course, time goes by, relationships are being built. I'm still homeless, you know, all this type of stuff. And I wound up with ICU. And from ICU, I wound up with her at her mother's house. And then from her, and now mind you, Criminal Minded then comes out. I'm living with Miss Melody and her mother and her sister. And Criminal Minded comes out. I'm starting to make about $500 now. We like getting $1,000 a show now, getting $1,000 a show, and we split it, me and Scott. I'm getting, you know, coming home with about $400 or $500. Maybe some nights, like the records got so big that we would do Philadelphia, Jersey, and New York in one night, and come home, each of us, with like $1,500 in our pocket. So now I was able to afford an apartment. Now I was able to hold down a woman even, in that sense. Now I was able to purchase clothes for myself and all of this. And I still was a homeless man, though. In my mentality, I didn't buy clothes. I bought what I needed, but I never really got into clothes. I never really got into jewelry, never really got into the car, never really got into any of that. What I wanted was knowledge and more books. So I would spend $700 on rare Bibles, $200 on rare dictionaries. I got the 13-volume Oxford English Dictionary encyclopedia set, $650 for that. You know, this kind of thing. So people didn't understand me. Ramona didn't understand me either. She's buying mink coats, and she's got diamonds on her pants, and you could just look at her, and you could look at her and look at me in the same period of time, and you will see the stark raving difference. And so, but I'm living with her, and this is what it is. I'm trying to start a life. I got no time for these frivolous relationships with one girl every night. I don't want that for myself. I want a wife. I want to build a family. I'm not interested in the material world. I'm interested in God. That's my stance. That's what I'm about. I like it through hip-hop. My spiritual path, I should say, travels through hip-hop. I'm finding and seeking God through this culture of hip-hop. because that's what saved me from age 12. I kept speaking this way all through the creation of Criminal Minded, all through it coming out, and then one day we get the call. I pick up the phone, it's D Nice on the phone. He's crying like as if somebody chopped his arm off. And he's screaming, "They shot Scott!" No, actually he said, "They got Scott. They got Scott. They got Scott." And I said, "Got him? What do you mean got?" First thing in my mind is the cops arrested him for something. They got Scott. But he said, "No, they shot him. They shot him. He's in the hospital." Shot. Oh. A chill went right through my body, a hard chill. Like you can't, I mean, anybody who gets the call knows what that chill is. Do you know what it is? It only comes when that call comes. And I felt it, bam, hit me right there. I said, "Oh, man, not Scott. No, not him. Any one of us that bullet could have came to, any one of us. Scott LaRock was not the one. He was not the gangster type. He was a social worker. And then as the story was told, he went with D Nice to break up a fight that D Nice was having. D Nice was having an argument with somebody else over a girl.
Whoa.
And Scott, being the social worker that he was, being the mentor that he was to all men, he was a mentor to men trying to come up. And he was a mentor to D Nice like he was a mentor to me. And he went to D Nice's rescue and got shot in the process. He went to the hospital and died there on August 27th. Oh, I'm sorry, August 28th, 1987. August 28th, 1987. He passes on.
And how did this affect you?
Well, several things happened. Right after Scott was killed, let me rewind the tape a little bit. 3 days before Scott was killed, 3 days before, me and him had accepted an invitation from Ice-T to come to L.A. on some Zulu Nation mission to launch real hip-hop in Los Angeles because Los Angeles gang situation was becoming too ridiculous. The crack, the gangs, all of that. And Africa Bambaataa had put out a meeting in 87, the first hip-hop meeting of the minds that was held by Africa Bambaataa. And he had said right there, we have to go out and spread real hip-hop before the corporations spread it the way they want it to be spread. So Ice-T down with Zulu Nation, West Coast, from the beginning, 86, 85, Ice-T was down with a dude named Africa Islam, who was called the son of Bambaataa. And they was on the West Coast of the United States. And they were trying to stop gang violence here. And this is what Ice-T's whole thing was. He was the pimp coming out to tell other pimps, let's respect the black woman. He was the gangster coming out to tell other gangsters, we got to calm down in the streets. When he heard about Boogie Down Productions, they brought us out to L.A. Actually, I think we came out because we was trying to get a record deal with Warner Brothers at the time. So we was on a corporate and a cultural mission at the same time. We went out there. We met with Ice-T and Evil E and all of them, Africa Islam, everybody. They showed us around L.A. It was wonderful out there. Then we took our meeting with Benny Medina and Warner Brothers. He promised us $275,000 to sign with Warner Brothers, and he would buy out the B-Boy Records contract. We were free men. It was a triumphant trip for us, triumphant. And so we got back on the plane, flew back to New York, and we was getting ready to do the Just Ice album. we had accepted to do the Just Ice album, because now Criminal Minded was out. Everybody was calling us to do their album. And my friend Just Ice, who was in the shelter with me, Just Ice was in the shelter with me as well at the same time. I reached back for my man, now that I was a star. He actually got out the shelter before us with a record named Latoya, which was a beatbox record, sort of like that. And he came out and had that record, and that's how he got his money and got out the shelter. And he was already big, getting money, doing his thing. And then when I came out, we blew up and became a little bigger than him, because we had a battle, controversy, and all this stuff. So we kind of blew up like a little bigger than him at that time. Plus, he didn't put an album out. We had an album out as well at that time. And so actually he did have an album out, but it wasn't as successful, I guess, as Criminal Minded. So when Criminal Minded, after that, me and Scott were the hot shot producers. And so we did his second album. We were going to do his second album called Cool and Deadly. And so we were going to do that album. So this is what was going on. We had the Warner Brothers Records deal on the table. We had Just Ice's album production on the table for Sleeping Bag Records. And then we had this mission from Africa Bambaataa in '87 to spread real hip-hop before hip-hop is interpreted only by corporate means. So we went to Cali to do that. And when we got there, the mission was complete in that sense. We got back to New York 3 days later. I get the call from D Nice. And the way, again, it made me feel was there was a part of me that knew this was what was necessary. I was never the type to mourn the death of someone. I don't believe in death. I don't believe in death as an end to anything. I believe in the eternalness of consciousness. I don't believe that I'm even my physical body. I believe that when the physical body drops, I continue on in the dimension that I already am in. It's my physical body that keeps me in this dimension, keeps me focused on this particular vibratory rate. But when this body expires, I will simply only be my true self. So when Scott passed, it wasn't for me to cry over his death. I actually honored it and said, now the group is complete. Because I also know that for any great mission to happen, there has to be a sacrifice. For any great mission to happen, there has to be a sacrifice. And the sacrifice got to be as close to you as your best friend or a parent or whatever. And in hip-hop, if you notice all the greats in hip-hop, not greats just because they may be because of their music, but people who have soared to the heights of society itself through hip-hop, not just rap stars, but the true icons of the culture, hip-hop. They have a death that was close by. A mother passed, then their career started. Father passed, brother, a close friend. We can look at Puffy with Bad Boy and Biggie. We can look at Queen Latifah and her brother Lance. We can look at Heavy D and Trouble T-Roy. We can look at Eminem and Proof.
And his uncle, Ronnie.
Exactly. And so I looked at it from this point of view. And this is before these guys experienced their deaths because, or shall I say sacrifices, because Scott LaRock was the first in hip-hop. The first one, the first major recording artist to get slain in the streets was Scott LaRock. And from there, the sad part to it for me was what a way to go out. Scott LaRock, it could have been anybody, should have been a few other people, but it was him, a good man, somebody who really cared about the welfare of other people and proved it by being a social worker. Like anybody who does social work on any level, you know you cannot do that job. That's the one job you can't do if you don't like what you do. You can't be a social worker hearing people's problems, and then saying, I don't want to hear your problems. No, you're that's what you're built for. And for that type of light to leave the earth was a sad situation. But I believe God as well. And so nothing is really a mistake or an error. I looked at it as now the group is complete. This is the sacrifice right here.